So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, paragraph 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough School Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the district website. This meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: SAM Government Channel, Verizon Channel 37, and Charter Channel 192. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the district website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And at this time, I will call to order the Southborough School Committee meeting, Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, to order, and it is 6:33 p.m.
Greg, I just have a comment. Do we want to just wait until Kamali, is Kamali joining us? Because
I just promoted her.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oops. And apparently I will take David Finneran off.
So I'll call the Southborough School Committee meeting of Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 to order. It is 6:33 p.m. and we'll do a roll call attendance. Jennifer Primack. Katura Martin.
Here.
Roger Challen.
Here.
Kamali O'Mealy.
Here.
And Kim Tolander.
Here.
And before we begin with the order of business, I just want to congratulate Jennifer on her re-election and our newest member, Kim, on her election to the Southborough School Committee. So thank you for your service and your commitment to the district.
Here, here.
So at this point in time, the first order of business is to elect a new chairperson for the 21-22 school year. And at this point, I will ask for nominations for chairperson of the Southborough School Committee. Katura?
I have a nomination to make. And I just would like to preface this a little bit by saying that I, for one, have very much appreciated Roger's chairship over the past year. He took this on knowingly in the middle of a pandemic and did it graciously, I think, for the rest of us who had school-age children and were sort of reeling in other ways from all of that, and have really appreciated all of his diligent work, his fair-mindedness, his responsiveness, and the way he conducts the meetings. I for one, have just really enjoyed that, and I'm going to nominate him as chair for this year, if he will accept it. I know that it's another, we're still heading into a not normal year, but I'm going to see if he will accept that and agree to do it again.
Well, I certainly appreciate the very kind words, maybe more than I deserve, but it's been, I will accept the nomination. This has been it's been an interesting year. It's been for all of us. Everyone on the school committee and the district staff. Very challenging year. I think we're hoping that we've, I guess, succeeded in dealing with the largest challenges, and maybe the next year will not be quite as daunting, but we still know that we have a lot of work ahead of us.
All right, so we have a nomination on the floor. Is there a second?
I will second.
And any discussion from the committee? Seeing there's no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. And we'll start with Kamali.
I absolutely agree.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Katura,
Yes.
and Roger, do you accept?
I do, and I vote yes.
All right.
Thank you for your confidence, everybody.
Well, thank you for doing this. We all appreciate it. We know how time consuming it is, and it's really it's really a benefit to the committee. So thank you so much.
And just before I turn over the chair back to Roger, I just want to echo the remarks and thank Roger for his leadership over the past year. It's been probably like no other in terms of being a committee member, school committee member, or a chair of a committee. And he's led with integrity, and he's been very responsive, and I've appreciated his leadership. So thank you, Roger. And at this point, I will turn the chair over to Roger.
All right. I can't find that gavel on there. I see it. All right. So the next thing we do is we have two other officers to elect. It's vice chair and secretary. So we'll start with vice chair. Do we have any, I guess, volunteers that would be willing to step up to that? Don't everybody jump in at once.
I mean, I would be open to volunteering for it if, unless somebody else wanted to do it. I know I had a chair position last year, so I'm open to somebody else on the committee if they wanted to do that. But
I could volunteer for that role as well. I think that the last year partnering with Roger just as a committee member, I kind of have a good sense. I'm learning kind of the roles and responsibilities, but have a good sense of his working style. So if necessary, and I need to lead the meeting, I would take on that responsibility.
All right. So Katura, would you like to make a nomination?
sure, I'll nominate Kamali as vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, nominated by Katura, seconded by Jen for Kamali as vice chair.
Kim.
Seconded by Kim.
I thought I said Jen. Did I misspeak?
Kim.
You
It
did
was
say Kim.
seconded by Kim.
Oh, okay. Well, how about that? Good start, Roger. Seconded by Kim. I saw Jen come off mute and I didn't look throughout the screen. All right, so nominated by Katura, seconded by Kim. We'll do a roll call vote. Jen,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Katura,
Yes,
I vote yes. And Kamali, will you accept?
I accept. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Congratulations. Next, the final officer we have is for secretary. Do we have anyone that is interested?
I'll do it if no one else wants to do it, Roger.
I thank you very much for that. I suspect that we won't have a ton of people jump in after you for that position, but
I mean,
thank you so
I would-
much. Oh, I'm
Can
sorry.
I just say something? Kim, I would be happy to do it if you want to just, I mean, it's not super heavy lifting, but if you don't want something on your plate first year, I'm more than happy to do it. So I'll just put that out there too, but I'm totally fine for somebody else to do it too.
I think I can do it. So seems like, but yeah. Unless, yeah.
Well, thank you, Kim, and thank you, Katura, for offering. I know you have a lot on your plate too, Katura, potentially coming up this year. So, all right. So, do I hear a nomination?
I will nominate Kim. for second.
Speak, Roger. Nominated by Jen and seconded by
Kamali.
Kamali. All right. Roll call vote. Jen,
Yes.
Kamali,
Yes.
Katura,
Yes.
I vote yes. And Kim, will you accept?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so our next order of business is the Superintendency Union number 3 members. Let me just say that by, I guess, custom, the chair is a required member. The other 2 members, because there are really 3 that Southborough provides, are generally the 2 most senior members. If someone, that would mean that it would be Keturah and Jennifer. Now, if either of you would not want to accept, we would sort of move from there. If you're willing to accept and there are no objections from the rest of the committee, I think that's the way we would probably move forward. So I'm open for comments about that.
I would be happy to accept.
As would I.
All right, it's actually interesting because the officers are really kind of distributed evenly here. So that should work out well. Not to say that, all the levels of effort are the same. So Greg, I'm going to ask for some help here. Do we go through the nomination process and voting on this also?
Yes.
Okay.
We probably should have nominations and motions and seconds.
Okay. So then why don't I start? I'll nominate Keturah Martin, as a member of the Superintendency Union number 3. Is there a second?
This is Kamali. I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Roger, seconded by Kamali. Roll call vote. Kamali,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes,
I vote yes. And Keturah?
Yes.
All right,
I
so
accept.
thank you. I'm looking for a nomination for Jennifer.
I'll nominate Jennifer.
All right, so is there a second?
I'll second that.
That was Kim, correct? I'm moving
Yeah.
around here. My eyes are moving around on the screen slowly.
Yes.
So, okay, second, nominated as a member of Superintendency Union number 3 is Jennifer Primick, and seconded by Kim. Nominated by Keturah, seconded by Kim. Or did, who, I'm sorry. Am I
That's it.
correct? I'm correct on that? Okay, so roll call vote. Kamali,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes. Accept.
Keturah,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes,
and I vote yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. So the next agenda item is the public hearing on school choice. And I guess I can just go forward and open that public hearing. At 6:45 p.m. I guess I'll turn this over to Superintendent Martineau.
Sure, just give me 1 second to share my screen.
This will be followed by an actual vote. I'm actually sorry that the vote will actually happen under new business. My mistake.
All right, and just confirmation that people can see my screen. Thank you. So this is a presentation that I did share with the committee back at the March meeting, and I'm just going to go over some basic information, again, to review school choice and what each district's responsibility is in terms of opting out or accepting school choice.
Greg, I'm just going to let you know that we can see the whole presentation mode right now.
That's not by design.
Right, that's what I figured. So I thought I'd let you know.
How's this?
There we go. That's right. Thank you.
So school choice is an interdistrict program, and it was established under General Law, Chapter 76, Paragraph 12B, and has been in place in the Commonwealth since 1991. And basically, it allows a parent or guardian to enroll his or her child in a school district other than the district in which the child resides. And under the school choice law, and which was amended in 1993, school districts in Massachusetts are presumed to participate in and to admit non-resident students through school choice. And this is an important point. If a school decides to withdraw, it needs to hold a public hearing and vote from the school committee. So a district can withdraw from school choice only if a school committee holds a public hearing on the issue and then votes to withdraw. So a little bit about school choice in terms of tuition. So the school choice tuition for students in a regular education program is $5,000 per student. And the cost per pupil expenditure for the Southborough Public Schools in FY20 was $19,394.21. So a little bit about options for the school committee. School committees may specify the schools and grades in which seats are available. So for example, if there was low enrollment in grade 1, the school committee could identify grade 1 as a school choice grade level and identify the number of seats available. When admitting students through school choice, school districts may not consider or discriminate based on race, color, religious creed, national origin, sex, gender identity, age, sexual orientation, ancestry, athletic performance, physical handicap, special need, academic performance, or proficiency in the English language. If the number of applicants exceeds the number of seats, so if we have, for example, in first grade, if we had 5 seats and we had 10 applicants, selection of students must be conducted on a random basis. And the selection process must take place July 1. And then again, assuming seats are available prior to November 1st. So just a little bit of advantages and disadvantages. Advantages, so for many districts who are struggling economically, it is a way to generate revenue, and it does go into a school choice revolving account. It does allow for school districts for flexibility in enrollment declines. And one of the advantages is it's a year-to-year decision. So the school committee could decide 1 year to opt out and the next year to opt in. But any students who are accepted into the school choice program have a right to remain in that district through the duration of the grade level span. So in Southborough's case, it would be through 8th grade. The disadvantages is, again, the per pupil expenditure that it costs to educate a Southborough student is much higher than the reimbursement rate we would receive for a school choice student. Acceptance is by lottery. So again, there's potential that a student with significant needs could enroll. And again, the responsibility to educate that child is on the town of Southborough and the school district. And it could cost more than the $5,000 tuition. Once a student is accepted, the student remains in district through grade 8. And again, potential for a student to require significant resources. And lastly, this year, which is unique, with the pandemic and uncertainty in terms of what reopening will look like in the fall of 21 in terms of social distancing, I think it's a challenge in terms of adding additional students to our enrollment at that time. So again, the purpose of this public hearing this evening is to hear from the community around school choice. And I will turn it back over to Roger. And before I do that, once we close the public hearing, we'll resume our normal agenda. And then there is an agenda item on the school committee's agenda for this evening, which the school committee will take a vote on whether to opt out. And if the school committee decides not to opt out and remain, no vote will be required. And I will turn it back over to Roger. Roger, you're on mute.
Thank you. So I see only two attendees. Would it be appropriate to ask any of them if they have any comment? I don't see a hand up from either. So it sounds like, at least, or it appears that there's no public comment at this point. So I guess I'm going to move to close the public hearing. Does that require a motion, or is that just done by, all right, so the public hearing is, hearing no public comment. The public hearing is closed at 6:52 p.m. Okay. We are now moving into the first agenda item, which is audience sharing. I'm looking out and I don't see any hands up in the audience. So we will move forward to the next agenda item, which is new business. And the first item in new business is legislative update. Superintendent Martineau.
Sure. So this was the second year in a row that the Day on the Hill session was not in person. The Day on the Hill is a great opportunity for the school committee members to meet with our legislative delegation in Boston and share our priorities, but also hear the legislative priorities. But this year it was virtual, and I did provide the committee members with a link to the recordings, as well as the supporting materials. And I think that as we look to this upcoming school year, I'm hopeful that we can actually spend the day on the Hill in person, meet with our legislative delegation, and I think it's a great event. So if you have not attended, as soon as I have the date, we can do a save the date. The other legislative update really is more around a upcoming workshop. You may have received this in your inbox, but this is a MASC workshop on diversity, inclusion, and equity, and it's called Making Goals Actionable. And this is going to be held on Monday, May 24th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it's really an opportunity to hear from representatives of multiple school districts that are in different phases of their DEI work, and really to think about how they're structuring it and how they're moving forward. So I will have Cheryl forward this information to committee members tomorrow morning if you've not received it yet. And that is the legislative update for this evening.
You know, before we proceed, even though there was some kind of congratulations before we open the meeting, I'd like to congratulate Jen Primick on her re-election and Kim Tollander on her election to the school committee. It's great to have you both. We have now to move to approval of grants and donations. You want me to go through this, Greg? Can you go through this?
A couple of comments around the first donation. The Southborough Rotary Club reached out to Assistant Superintendent Lavoie and was very gracious in offering us a donation, which has been put to great use. And Mr. Lavoie, I'm not sure if you want to speak to how the money was used and how it benefited our schools.
Gladly. As soon as got reached out to from the Rotary, we immediately knew we had a couple of needs. They really wanted to help us out with anything that was COVID related. And it was just about when we were starting to return to in-person learning. And from the basics, from disinfectant wipes to different types of PPE, we were able really to benefit from them. One of the changes to what we've done previously is Principal Valenti found these nice caddies for the walls where we used to have tables all over the place for gloves and masks and things. Principal Valenti found these caddies. So we have wall-mounted units in 2 of our schools, about 2 or 3 per building. That has really helped keep us organized, knowing that the PPE is not going to be something that goes away anytime soon. And we want to be prepared as much as possible. And it's presentable. It definitely does give an air of professionalism to what we're trying to do. And without the Rotarian support, we wouldn't have been able to make those purchases. So a huge thank you to the Southborough Rotary and their commitment to our schools.
So Roger, I think.
Yeah, I've got a little message that even says I'm muted. I think these deserve to be acted on separately. So I would look for a so moved motion to approve a $1,042.54 donation from the Rotary Club of Southborough.
So moved by Kamali.
Moved by Kamali. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jen. So roll call votes. If there's no additional comment. Kamali?
Yes, and I'll just like to thank the Rotary Club for that donation, and because we can see just how well it's being used, and I'm sure it just kind of takes away from some of the clutter in the hallway and brings our buildings up to looking a little bit more modern and sleek. So I really appreciate them for this donation.
Kim?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Katura?
Yes.
I vote yes. I would like to echo Kamali's expression of appreciation. While I haven't actually seen it, we thank you very much for your generous donation. So the next item, Greg, is there some comment on this?
Yeah, just, I think it's another example of our teachers seeking out grant opportunities. So our 4th grade team at Neary sought out a grant, and I'll have Principal Valenti speak to it.
Thank you. So really the lead on this is David Finner and Kristen Tav seeking understanding as a 4th grade team, the importance of ensuring that our students are feeling safe and adjusting well to the transitions that have happened throughout the pandemic. So they reached out to Ocean State Job Lots close to our HEART program and sought a donation of clay pots, which they went and picked up themselves over in Westboro, brought them back, distributed them to every student, as well as our SARP students. The students were able to plant seeds connected to our science curriculum, and each of them wrote inspirational words. It's called 3 words, and words such as always work hard, brighten someone's day, make someone smile. So each student was able to plant the seeds, and now they're starting to sprout and grow, and they're caring for them, and then they will go home with them. Our SARP friends already have them at home, but those will help them throughout the summer. Just when you're seeking an inspirational word or a thought, and also caring for the plant, keeping it alive, and so it's something that carries beyond the school, beyond the school setting, and will be a reminder of a wonderful 4th grade year and how important it is to be positive and stay motivated and inspired. So kudos to Kristen and David for seeking this grant for us and providing this to all 4th grade students.
Those are really nice comments. Anyone else? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the $200 donation from Ocean State Job Lots close to our HEART program to Neary School 4th grade.
I'd like to move that motion.
Moved by Kamali,
I'll second it. Katura?
seconded by Katura. There'll be a roll call vote here. Kim?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Kamali?
Yes. And
Katura? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Kamali, were you going to add something?
I was just saying thank you to the teachers for taking the initiative and filling out this grant. So I mean, it's something that's just going to continue to give, right? After, throughout the summer as the kids take their plants home. So it's just a great idea.
Okay, Keturah, you had voted yes,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so that is also unanimous. And thank you again for both organizations.
Thank you.
Number 3 is a discussion on the superintendent's evaluation process.
Sure. So I did have several meetings over the past month with Keturah, who is the chairperson of Union Superintendent number 3, and the regional chair, Joan Frank, and we organized the superintendent's evaluation. So Cheryl Lepley sent out a communication, I believe, yesterday morning, which outlined the process and had Google Forms, and also included a summary of the work this year, as well as supporting evidence around my goals. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or, along the journey of filling out the evaluation, if you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to Keturah or Joan Frank, and we'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional evidence.
Keturah, do you have any comment at this point? I know we're taking a look at the material that went around right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that the letter was clear about what the items are that are being evaluated. And I'll just reiterate that the Google form process, I think, makes the whole thing much simpler than it used to be. And it's very, very easy. It's not a very, it's a thoughtful process, but it shouldn't be too time consuming. So we're hoping that those responses just roll right in. And but Greg's done a great job of putting together supporting information, and hopefully the process will be sort of as smooth and easy as it can be for everybody who's completing it.
Keturah, this is Kamali. Yeah, I just wanted to offer that when I received the process and the attachments, I thought I was very clear. And I'm not, I can only imagine how it's been in the past, but definitely very user-friendly now. And I'll take Greg up on his offer if we have any questions to reach out when we're completing it.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Other comments? All right. Why don't we move to the next item, which is the school choice vote. Now, the only motion that would be made here is that the Southborough School Committee would not elect to have school choice this year. If there is no motion, then it will be automatically deemed to be school choice. So is there any further discussions? We've talked about this quite a bit. Is there any further discussion on this first?
Roger, can I share my recommendation?
Yes, please.
So my recommendation is to opt out of school choice for this upcoming academic year. And the rationale really centers around the pandemic and the unknowns of the fall. And I think adding students to our enrollment in a year where we're not quite sure what social distancing will be is, again, the primary reason why my recommendation to the committee is to opt out for the 21-22 school year.
No, my thinking is the same, and for the same reason. There's still a lot of unknowns with the pandemic the way it is, and I think it would be difficult or add to the difficulty that we face already. But again, so the only eligible motion is a motion to opt out of school choice for the 2021-22 year.
Roger, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Okay. I will move that Southborough School District opt out of the school choice program for the upcoming school year.
Does it receive a second?
Before we second, can we discuss?
Sure.
Could you talk to us a little bit about, how has the school choice volume been over the prior to the pandemic? Like steadily increasing? Are we talking about mostly in the, first through fourth? Like, is there any kind of information that you could share on the volume?
So Kamali, the school committee has never opted in or has always opted out of school choice. So we've not been a school choice district. So if the district entered and decided not to opt out, this would be a first experience for the school committee. I can assure you, though, that if we did become a school choice district, there'd be no shortage of students in surrounding communities who would love to attend our public school system.
Absolutely. Okay.
I probably should have asked for the second before we went into discussion. Is there a second, and we can continue the discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, so it's moved by Katura, seconded by Jen. Is there any continued discussion or things that anyone would like to offer regarding this?
Well, as we were reading the information about the school choice, we're able to actually set the limit or the cap on how many students per grade. And so I wonder why that hasn't been taken up, or has that been taken up in the past, where we propose setting a limit or not? Do you recall, not so much for you, Greg, but like Katura, Roger, like this is voted on every year. Do you recall that or ever considered that?
Katura?
May I, Roger? Okay.
Please.
Well, I think it has been the information that's been mostly, I think, considered is the financial information of it. For every student that comes in, the district only gets reimbursed $5,000, whereas it costs over $19,000 to educate every student, to educate a student. And so financially, it would be an expense to do this. And, generally speaking, the district isn't really in a position to add that level of expense.
Yeah, I guess I would add to that. It's not, by the way, just kind of setting limits, but if you think about the financial structure, if let's say there was an opening in the first grade that we chose to fill through school choice, that's basically $120,000 expense, because
It goes to 8th grade.
It goes to 8th grade. I don't anticipate that what we would be reimbursed would necessarily increase. So this is an estimate, obviously. I'm sort of using 5,000 as a reimbursement, but there's also no guarantee that our cost of 20 wouldn't increase. So it's a significant expense to take on. As Greg mentioned, we kind of looked at the situation before. A lot of school systems, or some school systems, actually look at this as a revenue generator, but that's because the cost is much less. So we happen to have a cost structure that is what it is. That is what we've kind of made it, okay, and approved. So it's even for one student at that level, you're taking on, $120,000 commitment, and so far we haven't wanted to do that, and one doesn't take a look at that lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, Roger, I think Kim has her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. Yes, you have, I'm looking in the wrong place. Yes, Kim. Sorry. Please. You're on mute though. Kim?
Looks like she's frozen.
Ah, your screen is,
Yeah.
can you hear us? Oh, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Let's try that again.
There
Okay.
you go. There you go.
So my comment is that I think there would be massive interest, like Greg said, and we don't choose the students that fill these spots, and they could be students with massive special needs that cost significantly more than $19,000 a year times 8. So I think, you know, it's like this, we have no control once we do that.
Yeah, I think I didn't mention that, but you're 1,000% correct. It really is a situation that once you do it, it really is out of your control, and that's especially where we're trying to figure out how to control things that we're trying to control right now. I think it makes it even more difficult. But that's a point that's been discussed in previous years. So you're 100% correct.
Roger, can I just make a comment?
Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I'll just make one comment around the funding mechanism as well. So, for example, if we accepted 5 students for this upcoming academic year, we would not see that money from the state until the end of fiscal year 22. So we'd be, again, it's at the end of the academic year where school districts are receiving the funding. So there's almost a gap of time where you would get the money to educate those students. So that's just another consideration.
A fair point. It's actually probably one of the smaller considerations when you consider the overall economic cost, but it is a fair point. Other comments or questions? And this is a good discussion.
The reimbursement of the 5K, that's set at a federal level or like a state level?
That's a state level. That was created through ed reform, and it has not been updated in many years. So I think it's been over a couple decades, I think 1993. And that has not been changed. With the Student Opportunity Act, I think there is a push to increase the school choice reimbursement amount, but again, it is woefully less than the per pupil expenditure most districts expend per student.
Yeah, frankly, I'm wondering at some point if the state would take a look at, I don't know how to say it, but maybe rethinking the kind of the structure of the reimbursement, knowing that some school systems, have much higher per pupil costs than others. And this kind of flat reimbursement doesn't reflect that at all. But maybe at some point they will take a look at that because I think it would help districts like ours, if that was reflected.
Yeah. No, this is, I'm glad we're having this discussion. We're all residents here, and so just me learning about the Student Opportunity Act and ed reform. I mean, if it's not, these are not things that we can have direct effect over, just like in our one district, but that is something that I'm learning that maybe I would like to get more involved in and look at and understand that, because I understand the fiscal impact here, but I'm also thinking about being the student that's in the other district that would like to come to this district, right? So if I just had that opportunity and the education that I could receive here, and if the school could get paid back a more balanced amount, that would help districts like ours and others not be so averse to having school choice, right?
That's a fair statement.
So, you know, I don't have any more discussion on this point. It's just something that I think it's good for us all to know. You know, I'm new to this. Kim, you're fairly new to this. And there needs to be more work done on this from a state level. Clearly, I'm learning. All right. Thanks. That's all I wanted to share.
All right, we ready to vote? Roll call vote. Kamali.
I'm going to say no at this time. No, we're not going to open up school choice.
So the vote is then yes. Because
Okay, yeah.
the motion is, okay, so that vote is yes.
Mhm.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Katura,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that is unanimous. Thank you. Moving to old business. You know, regular item on our agenda is the COVID-19 update.
Sure. Before I turn it over to Mary Ellen, I just want to acknowledge that today is School Nurses Day. And I just want to acknowledge Mary Ellen and her leadership throughout this year. I think our school nurses are essential in a good year. And I think the role of a school nurse has become a very public role in our community. And I think people really have seen the amazing work that they do on a day-to-day basis. So I just want to thank Mary Ellen and thank our Southborough school nurses for incredible work they've done throughout this year.
Here to that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, I echo everything Greg said. They have gone above and beyond and done things they never thought they'd have to do and learned things they never thought they'd have to learn about. So they have been just rock stars throughout this whole pandemic and being very flexible and doing really whatever we've asked them to do, from serving lunches, riding a bus and serving lunches to students last year, to all the contact tracing and everything else they're doing to keep our students and our staff and our community safe throughout this whole year. So we're blessed to have such professional nurses in our district, for sure.
Mary Ellen, I think you're fortunate to have such a terrific group that makes you look good, you know? I mean, that's great, isn't it?
I really am. That's for sure. They really are awesome. I couldn't ask for a better team right now. So, and they're all staying, so that's the good thing.
That's great.
Nobody's quit so
great.
far. Nobody's quit just yet. So our COVID update, our numbers are showing exactly what the state is doing and what the towns are doing. The numbers are dropping down in our school system, in our town, in our state, which is a great thing. Focusing on vaccination is what the state's focusing on too. And everybody heard the news today that it's going to go to the 12 to 15-year-olds. We have a regional vaccine clinic that's been put on by our Board of Health with 6 other towns. So we did hold a student clinic on Saturday for the 16 and over, and they're going to be offering after-school clinics at the regional site. I believe as early as tomorrow. You might get emails tonight. And throughout next week, after school hours, after their regular clinic hours are done, they're going to do 2 to 6 after school hours. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction there. Our screening numbers are slowly increasing. We go up about 2% of students throughout the district every week. We're up to about 53%. We have as high as 71% at Woodward. That's the highest school in the whole district. So our numbers are great, and people are still participating, which is great. And we hope that continues through the end of the year. The outlook for what we're going to do in the fall, we're still not sure. We have, there's a meeting tonight with the Safer Teachers, Safer Students, and I'm sure that will be a discussion that a lot of schools are having as to what's screening going to look like in the fall. We're with the medical advisory team, we're reviewing all kinds of end of year activities, and the medical advisory team is another group that we would be lost without, and I have to sing their praises any chance I get because they have volunteered their time to guide us and lead us and offer their expertise as a resource for us throughout this whole pandemic. So they deserve a lot of kudos from all of us too. And I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
I do, Mary Ellen. Are there any plans to change the timing of the, or I should say the frequency of the COVID testing offered at schools?
To change it to more frequently or less frequently?
Mm-hmm.
I think ideally every 3 days is what's best, and 1 week, every week is what we've decided to go with. I haven't really had any discussion or seen anything that would say that we should extend that time.
Okay.
Kim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Mary Ellen. One, do you think that we're still going to do the testing this summer for ESY?
Do you want me to answer both? All right, we'll start with that one. So this is a discussion we started, Mr. Martineau and I started having this week. I think we probably will. We do have nurses that are in each building for ESY, and we probably would offer the testing, the screening throughout the summer.
And my other question is, have you noticed any difference, like school to school? Like, so Woodward has a really high participation rate. Like, have you noticed a difference versus like the lowest participation rate as far as like COVID is concerned?
Actually, our numbers now are low, so the amount of testing isn't relevant to the positive cases where they are. We have, we've done 33,000 tests since we first started doing it, and we've had, I think, 21 asymptomatic positive people that we've found since we started screening. So I think that's the goal of it, to stop the spread by catching the asymptomatic people. The big question now is, when people are vaccinated, should they continue to screen? There are breakthrough cases, and we're seeing more breakthrough cases after people are fully vaccinated. So we are recommending that people continue to screen even after they're vaccinated, just because while we learn more about the virus, the variants, and the vaccine. That's my standby tagline when people ask me. There's still so much to learn.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome.
Jen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a question about, I think I asked this probably at the beginning when we started doing this, but do we have a better sense of why people are not participating in the pool testing, hearing from families, and are we continuing to make efforts to reach out to families to encourage them to sign up, even as we're ending the school year?
So it's been an open registration, and we do get new registrations each week. As I said, we increase about 2% each week. I think I'm not sure where the PR should come from, probably the individual schools rather than from the administration level to get more people interested. But if people, I think everybody knows about it, but if you can think of ways that we can get more people interested, I'm open to hear it.
And, I don't know, because I think we mentioned this maybe last time, but this idea of sending paper copies home for people to be able to sign up and send in with their students, if that was an option, to reach more families.
So I can bring it up to the nurses and maybe send something home on the Thursday, whatever day the packets go home through the schools.
Okay, Kamali?
We're already in May, so I'm wondering, have yourself and the advisory team started talking about continued testing over the summer, or like pre-return to school testing options?
So we have started the discussion, as I said, about the summer with Mr. Martineau and myself and the medical advisory team this week. And I think we're going to learn a lot in the next few months, as lots of things change week to week with the virus, and that will lead us to know what's the best option for us to do in the fall, whether it's, do we just continue to screen like the pre-K to 12-year-olds, up to 11-year-olds, the people who aren't vaccinated? Do we continue screening the vaccinated people? I think we're going to learn a lot more as we go when we see how many breakthrough cases we're seeing, and the state's tracking all of that. So, and what would be our best plan to go forward.
Okay.
Roger, just through the chair, just one comment too, and that is that this has been a partnership through the town. The town is using its CARES Act funding to support this testing initiative. Not all communities decided to do that, so we're very fortunate to have a town that supports this work. And again, just acknowledge Mark Purple and the Board of Selectmen for supporting this testing initiative in our districts.
Well, I'll echo that. It's good to hear that we have that kind of support from the town.
Excellent.
Jen, is that hand still up or is it up again?
No, sorry.
Okay, sorry, I didn't pay attention either when I looked over. Okay, so next item is focused tiered monitoring. I'll turn it over to Greg.
Sure. So our student support services team, led by Marie Allen, so Deb Lemieux, Erica Matthew, and Kate Clark, had to work on a focused tiered monitoring audit that is offered through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So again, this is work above and beyond what a department would have to do in a typical year. So Marie Allen did an amazing job, and will speak to the results of that tiered monitoring program.
Okay, so where do we begin? Tiered focused monitoring is an auditing process conducted by the Department of Ed, and it's tied to student outcomes. It is otherwise known as the Coordinated Program Review, for those of you who have been around for a while. And the Coordinated Program Review used to happen in 6-year cycles with a 3-year in between. So, and the Coordinated Program Review would be over 100 elements that we would need to be audited on. What the Department of Ed did was break it into chunks, 3-year chunks. And so this session for tiered focused monitoring was based on our results from the CPR last time, and our data points had indicated no concern on compliance or performance outcomes, and that we met requirements. And as a result, we had to focus on 29 elements instead of the 100 plus. So in that area of focus was licensure and professional development, parent, student, and community engagement, facilities and classroom observations, oversight of programs and processes, time and learning, and equal access. And within that, the process began in the spring of 2019. And in that piece, we had a self-assessment phase where we had to upload all of our documents that were special ed and civil rights related. And those uploads were reviewed by the department. And then there was a verification phase where there was a survey of parents of students with disabilities. There were interviews of staff, interviews of our wonderful Northborough, Southborough Parent Advisory Council. And then there were observations of classrooms and on-site review of floor plans. Because of COVID, that piece was done virtually. So from all of that, the Department of Ed met with Greg and I for an exit interview on February 25th of this year. So you can see from spring of 2019 to this year, it was a fairly long process. And their visit summary said that we had a solid focus on servicing students, their individual needs, and supports to families. They said the reauthorization of the strategic plan included equity of opportunities and cultural responsive initiatives. And then the parent survey results said that 91% of the respondents said that the child's school welcomes all families. 97% of the respondents said the parents felt included as part of the IEP team and that their input was valued as an IEP team member. 85% said the evaluation process adequately assessed needs of the student, and 68% said the academic supports in IEPs are appropriate. However, the auditor noted that COVID was a major factor in that percentage. They said that we focused on meeting individual needs and that our students show progress on IEP goals and objectives, and that it was very positive. So as a result, we're categorized as a tier 1 school district now going forward, and that means that it indicates again that there's no concern on compliance and performance outcomes and that we meet requirements. And the quote from the actual write-up said, the department is pleased to report that the district was found to be in compliance with all criteria reviewed and no corrective action is required at this time. So we had absolutely no findings from this audit, which is wonderful, but couldn't do that ourselves. So I wanted to thank my assistant directors, all the central office staff, administrators, staff, all the principals. They were all responsible for assisting us in gathering the submission data. And it was definitely a collaborative and Herculean effort from everyone. So thank you. Any questions?
Congratulations to all on that terrific assessment result. That's great.
Thank you.
Comments or questions from any committee members? Thank you very much, Marie.
Thank you.
Next item is communications. Superintendent Martineau?
Sure. So this was a agenda item at our April meeting, basically talking about, ways to think about improving communications. And I think we added this, we forwarded this agenda item to this evening's agenda, knowing that we would have a new committee member who might have some insight and input in terms of thinking about communications and moving forward, and some ideas of how we can improve, the great work that we're doing in our district and making sure people know about it and are hearing about it.
So full disclosure, Kim, we left this on the agenda for you. I did mention that you and I had some conversations early in the year, just the two of us, about communication in general. So this isn't the last time we'll discuss this at all, but if you had any comments you wanted to make about it, at least at this point, we thought we'd leave it on the agenda item so you could make any comments. And this won't be your last opportunity. I can assure you that.
I think just jumping. Oh, go ahead. Just jumping off of what Greg said. Like, I think that it's important that families and the community know the good work that's happening inside the buildings. And also, I think a more streamlined process on some communications would help staff and like building staff. I think it would help them make everything a little bit easier. So I think it needs to be like an overall sort of process. But it's like we could start with baby steps, it doesn't need to be like something that costs a lot of money or yeah, that's so I think that like having this as like improving communications is like something that we're constantly working for to let everybody know what we're doing, but also to help staff do things easier would be really good working goals.
And we also discussed the fact that there are some resources in the district that potentially would have been able to be more focused on this, but COVID sucked up a lot of resources from everywhere. Okay, so I think we're looking forward in the future to to, as you say, maybe taking some baby steps and moving forward. Other, I see Jen's got her hand up. That's
Yeah, I wanted to echo some of the things that Kim said, and I think, we've talked about communication as it's one of our top priority, as in part of the plan, something that we place a lot of importance into. And I would love to be able to see some way of supporting the administration in the communication goals. I think, especially like there's a lot of social media chatter constantly and a lot of confusion. Like I see as a parent, a lot of confusion about like various messages that go out, people not knowing what's going on. I think there's probably always going to be a degree of that, but there's no, other than committee members potentially, there's no one really addressing those questions or communicating on those avenues. And I think that we could do a lot it's time consuming for administration to have to do that, but having someone with a background or expertise able to dedicate some of the time exclusively for communication, I think would help things a lot and reduce parent probably complaints and concerns to some degree.
Keturah?
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this, and it makes me wonder if we have a path forward yet, or what are the thoughts on how we're going to move forward with this? Because I think there's probably an initial step of analyzing, where can communications be improved? How could they be improved? And then how are we going to implement it? It might involve looking at, how do other districts have their communications, or, like what's sort of considered best in class structure of organization out to the community and families and all of that. And I don't know if we have I'm trying to envision the path forward and I can't picture it. So I'm just wondering how we're planning on approaching this, if we know yet. Maybe we don't know yet. That's my question.
I think that we might move that question over to you, Greg, if you
So I think
want to speak to that.
So we do have a lot of historical data. Over the past 5 years, we've surveyed families pretty consistently. So we have some good data. But I think if we are looking to improve communication, again, collecting some baseline data, and probably not in a pandemic, Molly, I know you mentioned this, that probably, some of the surveys we did this year were more around pandemic communication. So it's not really data that probably is all that relevant. I think if we do have a baseline survey that we can send out, connect that back to some of the historical data, and then come up with a communications plan. I do think, we are a very large district. Obviously it's Southborough pre-K through 8, which we're talking about currently. But we're also talking about Algonquin Regional High School and Northborough pre-K through 8. So there is an opportunity for collaboration and economies of scale. As you know, we did have a communication position in our restructuring plan that we rolled out a little over 2 years ago. The reality is that all plans are great until you implement to see where the struggles are, what works, what doesn't work. What we found really in the plan was that one of the employees who was half-time in communication, half-time working with HR. Again, we're 800 employees. That person's time is really spent fully in HR. And I honestly don't think that's pandemic related. I think it's just the nature of being 800 employees and the complexity of HR. So I would like to revisit, thinking about communication, having a more of a communication strategy, thinking about themes of communication across our buildings, thinking about how we can task someone with some of these responsibilities. I agree with Jen. This is these are departments and in many organizations that just focus on communication. And we have a lot of good stories to tell. And I think that there's always room for improvement. So I think the next step would collect some baseline data. I think have conversations with our Northborough and regional colleagues and come up with a communications plan and think about what we'll need to do to make that plan work well.
Can I ask a quick question? And I don't know if such a service exists, but in the same way that we've audited or kind of done a review of some of our other areas, I don't know, is that a possibility? Or even if there's a parent in the community who does like PR communications, who can actually take a look, a deep dive into kind of what we're doing right and what areas need to be focused on, and that use that to drive potential changes or a plan in the future.
No, I will share that because, of the regional school committee's vote to change the mascot at the high school. Principal Bevan at the high school and I have been reaching out to marketing firms and rebranding firms. So there's no shortage of folks who will help, look at marketing, communications, and really help us use, best in class in terms of communications that are effective. So that is an opportunity, Jen. And
that might be a great thing to piggyback on those talks that you're already having, because if you have this new mascot and look and brand for the high school, to sort of pivot and have set up like a style guide and like some things that you can sort of push out to all the buildings, to all the three districts. It might be able to be something that you could get done in that process.
It seems to make sense, Greg. I think you
I think it's a great idea. I think I think what we're hoping to have is a branding guide. So regardless of who's the superintendent or who are the principals or directors, there's this branding guide that kind of endures beyond the current stewards of the work. That way there's consistency moving forward. It's not the next superintendent comes in and rebrands the district. There's some consistency over time.
Yeah, I'm tempted to think that leaving this item on our agenda going forward, while not necessarily expecting that there would be specific progress, I think it gives us an opportunity to continue to keep this really, I guess, to some degree in the forefront, because I think we're all thinking this is pretty important. So.
And Roger, I think the next step too is, having a conversation with the North Row chair and the regional chair, and potentially at our joint meeting in June, having this as a topic, because again, the value of being three districts is economy of scale and really working together. So we can talk to the chairs in North Row and South and the region.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Any other comments? Okay.
Roger, before we move on to the topic, I do have a communication in the communications section, and that is really around the Coalition for Equity. And Rhoda's going to just give a brief update, but I will share that we have one more meeting in June. And I have asked the coalition under Rhoda's leadership to provide an in-depth overview of the work the coalition has accomplished, next steps and where we're headed. So that will be an agenda item in June. But I did ask Rhoda to give a kind of a brief update of the work of the coalition thus far.
Great, I appreciate that, because I committed that we would at least speak to it. And I'm not sure that everyone realized that we was thinking about the June meeting, but that makes a lot of sense. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rhoda, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. So the Coalition of Equity has continued to meet monthly. I just want to acknowledge the members that are here tonight. So Kim, Kamali, Mary Ellen Duggan, Kathleen, and Stephanie, of course, and Greg and Clayton. Marie are on the Coalition for Equity. So many hours by the members, our community members and students have been put into the coalition this year. We've had wonderful conversations. We're setting up structures and processes to recommend to the district. It's a wonderful partnership that we have because the work that's been done, and we'll go in depth, and we have reached some of our goals this year. We're not ending the coalition in June. It will go into next year, so the work will continue. And we'll be able to explain to you next month exactly what has happened. But there have been 4 working groups. The mascot working group concluded its work and presented in March to the combined school committee. But in between meetings, every working group has been moving forward the goals that we had set, and we'll bring that to our report next June. And we do have a meeting tomorrow where all the working groups will report the work done to this point.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions at this point? All right, looking forward to next month's meeting also.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the capital planning update. Craig?
Sure. So several updates under capital planning, and first and foremost is that it's hard to believe that we were in a significant accelerated repair project this year, which began, I believe, last March, in terms of wondering whether we'd be able to get the actual equipment for the fin boiler replacement. So we entered into an MSBA accelerated repair project. The statement of interest and the acceptance was completed in 2019, and the work began this past spring. It was actually completed on time, on schedule, actually under budget this fall. And we received the certificate of substantial completion, which is basically the final document stating that the project was successful and is complete. The reimbursement rate for Southborough was 36.89%. The project total was approximately $980,000. And as a result of MSBA's reimbursement, we received $373,946 in reimbursement funding. So it was a very successful project, and I thank Keith Lavoy for kind of managing the project, and Clayton Ryan for dealing with some cool temperatures in September. So I just want to acknowledge their efforts as well. Before we move on, Keith, I don't know if there's any comments that you want to add.
No, other than, we're in pretty good shape. It's one of those projects where you don't want to hear about it and you don't want to see it, because if that's happening, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I think overall we are in that infancy stage of the transition, and we had a couple of things that we're looping back on, but nothing significant and nothing we can't handle. Brian Fantoni has been awesome about this project, keeping up with its transition, and certainly tuning into Clayton and the staff's needs if anything needs to be adjusted. So just like anything new, we have had to make some tweaks, but we are in good shape, and the hope is that we can clear things up over the summer and it'll be good to go for the next heating season.
All right. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Well, I'll echo Keith's comment that these are the kinds of things that actually you like not to hear about, because you generally don't hear about good news except at the end. So it sounds like it was a great job.
Right, so the next item on the agenda is the MSBA statement of interest window. So the Mass School Building Authority has 2 programs. So the accelerated repair project, which is basically roofs, boilers, and windows. And they also have a core building program that basically evaluates either renovating or rebuilding schools. So we learned that the core building program window to submit a statement of interest opened about a month ago and is due June 25th. So the Capital Planning Committee and the Capital Planning School Research Subcommittee of the town have been meeting to really think about space needs of the town, not just at the school level, but in terms of town building. And we've also been talking about MSBA and what role it plays. Because the window opened, the statement of interest window opened, my recommendation is that we submit a statement of interest to MSBA into the core building program for Neary Elementary School. And basically that statement of interest would talk about, what are the deficiencies of Neary School, what are some programmatic things we can't do. That statement of interest goes to MSBA Board of Directors. They evaluate the SOI, the statement of interest, and then decide whether they want to invite the Southborough Public Schools into the program. So basically, the SOI gets us in line. And then if we are invited into the program, a lengthy and in-depth process takes place that will take several years. Submitting a statement of interest is no financial commitment on the behalf of the town, nor the school committee. Rather, it just begins an invitation into MSBA's program and allows us to kind of think about what could be moving forward. So this evening, I'm just asking for the school committee support to submit a statement of interest to MSBA for Neary School.
I think we should take a vote of support. I'm not 100% sure that it's required, but I think I'd like the school committee to have a position on this. I believe the chair has to sign this document, so I'd also like to know from the chair's perspective that the rest of the committee, supports doing this. Keturah.
Thank you. I was just going to make a comment, having been involved in a lot of the capital discussions, that I think this makes a lot of sense to do, given all of the work that's upcoming on the capital plan for Neary. And I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to see if we can get a substantial contribution toward anything that may need to happen with that building. So I'm in full support of this.
And again, I would echo that this doesn't obligate us, but to be able to avail ourselves of it, we need to go through this process. Mm-hmm. Other comments? I'd certainly entertain a motion, to go ahead and submit a statement of interest from the Southborough School Committee.
I will make that motion. Oh, sorry, Kamali, go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is Kamali. I'll make that motion. So moved.
Moved by Kamali.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Keturah. Any other discussion? Okay, let's take a roll call vote. Jen?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Kamali?
Yes.
Keturah?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone, for that. The next item is the demographic study. Superintendent Martineau.
Sure. So as the committee is aware, we did contract out with NESDEC to do a more in-depth enrollment study, and NESDEC provides us with enrollment projections on an annual basis. However, because we are entering into a phase of what could be in terms of the Southborough Public Schools and the larger context of the town and buildings, we engage in a much more in-depth demographic study with NESDEC. Through that process and through NESDEC's process, there was some question around the accuracy of the reporting and whether the numbers and projections were really reliable. And again, it's very difficult to tell whether or not that we could rely on NESDEC's projections. Given the importance of our enrollment projections, making big decisions around, what are the configurations of our grade levels, what are we going to do with school buildings? We did have a conversation around having a second demographic study done to verify the work of NASDAQ. We did reach out to a few companies, and we did look for companies that actually specialize in demography. And we did enter into an agreement with RLS Demographics. It's a firm specializing in the use and analysis of economics and demographic data for private and public applications. We did interview the company, and Katura joined us on that interview. And we met with Mr. Scardamalia, who is the chief demographer of RLS. And one of the pieces that really intrigued us and actually supported moving forward with RLS is that he has more than 20 years working in the state of New York, and he directed New York State Data Center before starting the RLS Demographics in 2010. So he brings a tremendous amount of expertise. He served on numerous state and national advisory committees for the Census Bureau and other state and federal statistic agencies. And he really is an expert on the sources of demographic data for use in public and private sector and applications. So we are excited to begin this work and again, confirm the data that we have with NASDAQ. And we've also asked RLS to do some projections, some what if scenarios. So what if X happens? What can we anticipate? So if a building project happens, what if it happens, what would the outcome be in terms of enrollment for our schools? So we're excited to begin this work and happy to answer any questions.
So I'll just say, I do see Katura with her hand up, but I will say that one of the things that I think we as a committee found concerning is, I think for years we've depended on NASDAQ, not even at the level that we asked them to participate this year. And one of the things that happened is we actually got conflicting results. Their results conflicted with their results. So it made a lot of sense to try to look for alternatives. Anyway, Katura, you were part of the interview process. I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add that just for the committee's benefit, that one of the things that I really appreciated about this other firm also is that they, so the person that we interviewed actually works closely with another sort of demographer type person who, and they collaborate and they look at a very wide range of factors. And he spoke a lot about migration patterns, which I think for our particular situation is important because we, we're not sort of the type of small town where people grow up and stay, and you can get a sense of what your future population is going to be based on what it's very sort of migratory in a way, long term. And so I thought that the way he described the factors that they look at would be also a fresh take from the way NASDAQ looks at it, and I'm really interested to see the results. And if they line up or if they, come out differently, which is also a possibility. So I think that given our experience with the results from NASDAQ, I agree with what Greg and Roger said, that it made a lot of sense to go in this direction. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We've got update on our move to full-time in-person learning.
Sure. So it's hard to believe that at our last April meeting, we weren't fully in person. We were at the elementary level, and Mr. Principal Hershuk and his team did an amazing job preparing for students' arrival after April break. And I'm not sure, Gary, if you want to just give some high-level highlights of the reopening.
Sure. Thank you, Greg. I can't believe we're 13 days into the process. Really, it's been pretty seamless, and a lot of credit goes to our reopening task force of teachers who've really been detail-oriented and student-centered throughout this process. As I shared at the last meeting, we had very few schedules that needed to be changed for students in terms of teacher changes, but just section changes. And that's really been beneficial, for our students to provide that level of consistency. We currently have 18 students still remaining in our SARP program. They are, receiving instruction through either a direct Zoom classroom or streaming into a classroom setting as a whole. So our office staff, Nancy Langway and Darlene Scorzelli, did deliver, goodie bags to our SARP students last week at their homes, which was a nice way to keep them reconnected for the rest of the year. Really, at this point, we continue to be, we have picked up with our activity levels. SOS did a wonderful teacher appreciation breakfast last week, which our teachers were really took a moment to kind of reflect on everything that they have done this year. We have started a baseball season, which is, which is great to hear, because if you asked me in October, I didn't think this was going to be possible. Typically, we run field hockey in the fall, but Mrs. Scarborough is bringing back a field hockey clinic in the spring. Mr. Lavoie, she did ask about the student faculty game, and we might be calling upon you, if we get that off the ground. At this point, we also are finalizing our second drama program. As I left the building today, we had about 20 students out in the parking lot doing a choreographed dance to Madagascar, Move It, Move It. So we are also in the, so yeah, this is great. This is the life of a middle school. And we are in the plans for a concert as well. So we're hoping to bring back some end of the year activities and awards for our students to have that level of normalcy. It'll probably be a hybrid of virtual and in-person activities. I would say that this time of year is historically a time of year where we have one eye on June 18th and one eye on August 30th, and we're in that mode of going back and forth. So with the schedule planning that we have, we're getting ready for MCAS. Last night we did have our NEARI parent orientation. And on Monday during the early release day, the Trotter faculty had an opportunity to do a deep dive into our school improvement plan. So, little by little, we're having, a return of traditions. We're having a return of, a lot of the things that make Trotter special, and, a very inviting, inclusive place for our students. So the reopening, as one teacher said, in many ways, the anticipation was the worst part. Not pivoting between 3 different learning models has been a weight off teachers' shoulders, and they have really relished this time with students.
I don't think that one can overestimate the effort that's been put forth to make this happen and make this successful. I am curious about whether Gary, you or anyone else or any members of the committee, have heard from the community itself, whether the feedback from the community is as positive as it sounds like this was.
Parents have been wonderful throughout this process. I can't tell you, they've been incredibly thoughtful. Right at the right moments of the year, they'll send a kind message to our teaching staff. I'm often CC'd on it, and I can't tell you how uplifting those notes of gratitude have been for our staff. In many ways, that really has propelled our staff. And, because there were some, challenging times during this year, and I can't, our parents have always been grateful. Beyond that, we also do a Thankful Thursday in our morning announcements, and we give an opportunity for our students to send us a note or a gesture to our staff. And just those little things have been have been very inspiring and very meaningful. So we've been very appreciative of that.
That's awesome. Kim, I see your hand up.
Yes, I can give a firsthand report from Trotter, and I'm going to echo everything that Gary just said, because it's been a fantastic transition. And my little mole, who's a 6th grader, said just 2 days ago, like, things feel so normal that it's almost like all of that didn't happen. And I just thought that was like amazing to hear, right? That, he's just so happy to be back and things are rolling. So thank you, Gary, for all of your work and all of your staff's work. It's just been a great experience.
Thank you, Kim.
Other, it really does sound great. Other comments? Kim, is your hand still up or?
Oh, no.
Okay. Katura.
Yeah, I was just curious about if the end of year activities are going to be impacted by the situation, or if they'll be able to move forward anyway, and if the SARP students will be. I'm just trying to picture how, if the end of the year is going to feel at all familiar, or if it's going to be very different for the kids who are moving on.
That's a great question, Couture. I think what we have proven over the last year and a half, we have the ability to reinvent a lot of activities and a lot of events. So as I kind of shared, typically our last couple of days, we have our students in the auditorium, with awards and with performances. And I think we, as I just mentioned, I think we might do a hybrid of some in-person and some virtual opportunities. So we are working with our medical advisory team and Mary Ellen, and she's been great. We've been, we kind of put an idea out there. She brings it back to the team, brings back some questions. We kind of start refining some of the logistics. And we, that has been really critical in all our work. So I don't think it's going to be the complete experience that we've had, but whenever we can bring back those traditions in some way, shape, or form, it really is our goal of the Trotter staff to have that return.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I also want to say I have a 5th grader, so we're very excited to be at Trotter next year. So
thank you.
Thank you for all the orientation information you've been sending out also.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? Okay, then. Greg, are you looking to excuse any folks at this point before we go into your report?
Actually, if I was hoping that I could begin my report by having each principal just give a brief update. And I was hoping that actually Mr. Mucci could start because he does have a very important commitment, a parent commitment preceding this meeting. So if Mr. Mucci could be in, that'd be amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm usually pretty excited to get out of bedtime, but if I get done with this and then can help with the kiddos, I'm sure it'd be appreciated. Hold on one second. I'm just, can you hear me all right? I'm trying to use my, okay. So just to echo some of Gary's sentiments, we had our Staff Appreciation Week a few weeks ago, sponsored by our SOS, and just want to say a big thank you to our parent organization. They treated us to a week of festivities of breakfast, lunch, treats from Yummy Mummy. We had gift cards. We had an ice cream truck sponsored by Trombettas, which caused quite a bit of controversy with our student body in the cafeteria when they noticed the ice cream truck and saw happy teachers eating ice cream, and they weren't included in that. And that's unfortunate, but the teachers really appreciated all the efforts of SOS. So on behalf of the entire staff, I just wanted to thank our parent organization and SOS for all the support that they've given us. Later this month, we have 2 special presentations also sponsored by SOS. So our grade 3 students will be experiencing Eyes on Owls in a virtual format. And then we'll also have the Discovery Museum of Acton providing a virtual presentation on forces in motion for our 2nd grade students. So again, those are sponsored by SOS. And we always appreciate the community support and involvement in our schools. Last week, we held our incoming 2nd grade parent orientation, and we had a great turnout. So I thank Principal Ryan for his support of that event and making sure that information got out to those incoming Woodward families. And then lastly, today we held our first ELA MCAS session for our 3rd grade students. And we had some hiccups, along the way, but all in all, it was a great experience for our students. And I'm just so proud of them for persevering through some of those technical glitches that we experienced. Having a student who's my own son taking MCAS for the first time this year, I know that it can bring a certain level of stress and anxiety to students. And just want to commend them for trying their best, which is really all we ask. So that's pretty much it from Woodward. And again, just so thankful to our nursing group and Mary Ellen for her leadership. We could not do this job without all those skilled professionals, and just want to commend all my staff and teachers for all the work that they put in. It is nothing short of amazing, the year that we've had so far.
All right, should we move on to Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, Superintendent Martineau. Yes, I want to echo a lot of what has already been said. I want to recognize Trish Fruitman, our school nurse, for the incredible job that she has done. She has bandaged, she has supported, she has picked up COVID tests, she has changed pants and shirts, and she's done it all, and she's done it all with a smile and with the support of Mary Ellen. And I cannot thank the medical team enough for their incredible work, because when kids come to school for the first time, there are a lot of belly aches, there are a lot of trips to the nurse, and Trish has done it all with a smile. So Trish, and you are amazing, and I'm so glad you're part of the Finn School community. Some other things I'd like to highlight: we were able to sneak in ACEs on May 4th, which is all children exercise simultaneously. It's a global national event. Our gym teacher, Tom McCabe, was able to organize the entire school, preschool, K and 1, out in the back. And miraculously, our students were able to keep more than an arm's length from themselves to the other person that they were exercising with. And we did probably about 5 minutes of exercises. They did about 5, I did about a minute. But it was great to get everybody out into, and this was our first time really getting the whole school together in some sort of big group, and it worked, and it worked well. So I want to commend Tom McCabe for that. The other thing I'd like to highlight, and Katura, you'll appreciate this, is we are working with the Chestnut Hill Farm staff, and they are helping us with some seedlings to get our Finn family garden up and running. So we had our K team work with some Eagle Scouts. I'm not sure the troop number, I want to say 5186 or something. They did a great job clearing the beds, fixing some of the plastic around what we had. We have 10 beds out back, all gated in. We're looking for some compost and some salt marsh hay to spread around the area so we don't have to weed. Our rain barrels are working, Katura, so we don't have to turn on the hose like we did over the summer. And we will have a thriving garden come the middle of June to the end of June. So we're all excited about that. And it's a garden that I think I've mentioned before, the kids participate in. They'll be planting some of the seedlings, preschool, K and 1, and what we yield from the garden, which has been amazing, all goes to the Southborough Food Pantry. So we're excited about that.
All right, thank you, Clayton. And Kathleen.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share. So thanks for allowing us to do this. So I believe we are 33 days into being fully back in, and I want to share just a couple of updates. So grade 4, the Neary 4th grade teaching team, again, was given that generous donation from Ocean State Job Lots close to home, close to our HEART program. So students, again, planted it, and the planted seeds, they're sprouting and they're being well cared for. Also through the SEF grant a few years ago, our tulips and daffodils are blooming out front. And not only does it beautify our space, but students have been able to get out there and cut plants to be able to dissect them as part of our plants and animal unit in science. So that's been exciting. Grade 5 has, as a continuation of National Women in History Month, which started in March, students have been working on research projects in both library and in the classrooms, and teachers have really encouraged students to explore beyond women who are well known, such as we've had some reports done on Shirley Chisholm, Harriet Tubman, Lucille Ball, Mother Teresa, Elizabeth Blackwell, and Anne Frank. For our specialists, we've had a successful transition back into all of their spaces. Students are thrilled to be back in art and music and library, and it's so wonderful to hear our orchestra friends practicing. Grade 5 band played outside. Some of them played outside for Teacher Appreciation Week, and our before school blues band is coming into school early each week. So that's really exciting and so wonderful to hear. I hope central office hears them each week when they play. In reaching across the roads to Woodward, we welcomed our incoming 4th grade families to our family orientation last week. Mrs. Dimitrov, Mrs. Tev and I hosted the orientation, and we had over 50 families attend. It was great to see our incoming students and their parents and guardians. Lots of great questions. And we were able to share out the welcome video created by our Neary staff. School-wide, we too participated in ACES last week. Mrs. Nash led us in a virtual version of it. That way we were able to capture our SARP students as well. They did way better than I did at the dances, but it was lots of fun and lots of participations. That was wonderful to see. We've expanded our use of our outdoor classroom with the addition of 4 new benches, 4 tables and umbrellas. So we have enough room to teach an entire class while still maintaining the appropriate distance. And with the warm weather here, this is a welcome space for us to be able to get out and get students in the outside in the open, while still being able to deploy direct instruction. So it's been really great. This past Monday, we were able to make, as a staff, great use of our half-day time by collaborating on the development of our new school improvement plan. We spent time examining proposed goals and action steps and working in small groups to provide feedback and ideas as we move through the process. And next week, we'll be meeting with our school council members to engage in the same process. We had a successful day of MCAS just the other day, and an amazing Teacher Appreciation Week, from the whoopie pie wagon to Vin Bin lunch, gift cards, and so much more. It's really quite amazing, the generosity of our families, and it's immensely appreciated. And kudos to Deb Parsons, our school nurse, just above and beyond what was ever expected of her this year. I had the opportunity to attend the Northeastern graduation this weekend virtually. My nieces were graduating, and the president of the college announced that they had just reached their 1 million testing. They completed 1 million tests on their students. And although I don't think we're there yet, I'm sure it feels like it's at 1 million, but our nurses definitely deserve 1 million thanks for all the work that they have done. And at the community level, I just want to again thank the Rotary Club for our sanitizing stations. It's just really helped us to organize the items that we have in it. It's accessible to students and staff, and it really helps to keep our school community safe. And it was so nice to meet the new Rotary members who helped to make this happen and accept their generous donations. And finally, just for our RAP programs, they're back on our school grounds. And I think archery is a big hit because I see the bows out on our in the main lobby every time they have archery, which was yesterday, Tuesday. So all in all, just great. It's so nice to have our hallways and our classrooms filled with students and staff and learning, and it's fantastic. So that's all for Neary.
All right, questions, comments? Okay, Greg?
So now, Roger, if it's the will of the committee, we can allow.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Katura, did you have a question for someone?
No, I don't have a question. I just, those were just such wonderful updates. I just felt like I wanted to say thank you for giving them and for doing such a fabulous job with everybody coming back full time. And I know we have happy kids in our house also, as Kim mentioned, and just know that that doesn't happen automatically. And there's a lot of work going on behind that. And I've also really appreciated everybody's focus, all the educators and staff and everybody's focus on sort of the well-being of the kids in this transition and making sure that sort of the emotional health of everybody is also taken into consideration and being sort of sensitive about, demands on the kids and, allowing for adjustment time and all of that, I think has been really wonderful in addition to all the other thoughtful work that's going on. So, so thank you everybody for all of that.
That was even better than a question. And they were great updates. Okay, Greg?
So Roger, now I think if it's the will of the committee to have the principals exit stage left, I think they would greatly appreciate it.
I see no objection. Well deserved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Take care. Thank you.
All right, so continuing on with the superintendent's report, in your packet is an enrollment report as of May 5th. I will share that our class sizes for the upcoming academic year fall within our class size policy. Stephanie is working closely with the principals and the teams, making sure that we're planned forward for next year. So I think in terms of enrollment, we're in a really good place. Enrollment from May 5th is 1,140, which represents a 3-student increase from the last report that I gave in April. Also in your packet is the FY21 monthly general fund expenditure report as of April 30th, 2021. And as you all know, Rebecca Pellegrino wears many hats, and one of those hats is a hat of a parent. So this evening she's not with us. She is wearing her parenting hat, which is excellent. So I will share the monthly general fund expenditure report and also the expense report on the COVID-19 unanticipated expenditure report. So the FY21 bottom line balance is $373,946.32, which represents a 1.76% of the total budget. The finance department is tracking expenditures and encumbrances very closely, and we are extremely confident that we will end the year with a balanced budget. At this time last year, which is a difficult baseline to use due to all of the nuances of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a bottom line balance of $606,873, which represented a 2.91%. But that is atypical, again, because of the overall pandemic that we were experiencing at the time. And lastly, there were no significant variances from the previous month. And Roger, I'm not sure if you have any questions or if you'd like to vote, or if you'd like me to give the next report before you vote.
Well, I think let's take questions on this and then vote on this, and then we'll move to the next report. Katura?
So I actually had a question about enrollments, but do you want to do this first and then I ask it, or can I? Okay.
Let's do enrollments.
Okay, so just popping back for a second, my only question was just kindergarten enrollment projection for FY22 for September is currently at 109. And does that reflect all of the registrations we've received so far? Is that what that is?
It does. It does. So, and also Stephanie and Nancy Bissett also reached out to all the families who are homeschooling children to see what their intentions are for this upcoming year. So we do anticipate, increase enrollment over the summer in terms of kindergarten.
Okay, I was wondering about that, if we were expecting more to come in. So, okay, so we'll wait and see. All right, thank you.
I have a kind of a follow-on question. So will we always have the projections. Will the new demography resource, will that actually play a role in these going forward projections as we move forward with them, or not really?
I think so, Roger. I think that in the sense that we've always used NASDAQ as kind of a baseline to think about the next fiscal year. So I think we'll have a better sense having this other report to kind of confirm or disprove whether NASDAQ has been accurate. So I think it will help with our enrollment projections for FY23.
All right, thank you. Questions on the monthly general fund expenditure report? So before we move on, I would entertain a motion to approve, until audited, the Southborough Public School District FY 2021 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of April 30th, 2021. Looking for a so moved.
This is Kamali, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Kamali, seconded by Jen. There'll be a roll call vote. Katura,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Kamali,
Yes.
Jen. And I vote yes, it's unanimous. So Greg, we can move on to, the COVID impact. The next topic.
So let me just share my screen. So this is the COVID-19 financial impact as of May 12th. And again, each month, Becky has overviewed the grants that we've received thus far. And the total receipts total a little over $484,000. And I will share that these monies, these grants have really helped offset any financial impact COVID, the pandemic has had on our overall operating budget. In terms of expenses, I think that, based on the projections in the grant money, we are actually in a pretty good shape in terms of actual spent and encumbered year to date, based on what we budgeted and also the grant funds we received. I will note that there are a couple areas. I think PPE, Becky shared that she is revisiting the PPE. There might be an unexpected expense in that line item, but nothing significant in terms of overall differences. Most recently, the grant fund that we use is the FY21 state coronavirus prevention fund of $37,300. And that was a huge help in terms of reopening. And those funds went to student desks and chairs, as well as HEPA air purifiers in all of our classrooms, pre-K to 8. And again, that expended the balance of that grant. In terms of our preschool revolving account, currently our profit loss is a little under, our loss is under a little under $3,500. And I will share that tuition expenses are aligned, so we collect tuition on a monthly basis. And we've received 81.29% of tuition, and our percent of expenses is 81.55%. And I just want to commend the financial department for the collection of tuition and parents for paying tuition, and that we are in a good place. And we do anticipate that we'll be able to end the year in the black. Our food services department, this has been a major unknown, and through Keith's leadership and the food services department has done an outstanding job kind of managing the pandemic. As of this report, the year-to-date total or balance is a little over $7,000. So we are in the black, which is great news. And we have 1 month left. So we anticipate that we will end the year with a balance of a positive balance, which is outstanding. And Keith, I don't know if you want to speak to the extension of the federal food program as well into next year.
Yes, I am happy to announce. I know it might have made its way through some media channels, but the free meals that we have benefited from this year will be extended for the 2021-2022 school year. So in preparation for next year, we will expect free meals for our students to be offered, from the beginning of the year to the very end. This year was different. We kind of had multiple extensions, which made planning difficult. And it will make this upcoming year a lot more easier because we do know we will have free meals through the remainder of the next school year, 21-22.
And that concludes the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No questions.
Kim?
I have a quick question. I think actually to Keith. With the extension of that free lunch through the next school year, is this a good time to sort of think about making like small improvements? I know I know a lot of parents have sort of been, they have a wish list. So I'm wondering if this is the good time to sort of like take a look at our lunch program, because of sort of the commitment we have through next school year of it, sort of like any changes that were made wouldn't impact revenue, more or less.
Kim, it's a good question. I think there's always an opportunity for improvement. I think that collectively nationwide, food services programs are still struggling. Food production and delivery has been impeded by the pandemic, and certainly the recent gas shortage isn't going to be helping in the next month or so. I think absolutely we're always open to having that conversation. The difficulty we have is that the production of food and the serving of food is still highly restricted. So we can't really use all those creative things we'd like to try because we still have to have individually served things. The preparation for that is greater. So, although I would say, yes, I would be very open to having a conversation. I think we just have to be realistic with what the guidelines are going to be. Mary Ellen and I have had a couple conversations. Can we bring back the trays? Or are we going to be still, serving in individual boats and individual wraps things? These things do have a significant impact on our operation. So I wouldn't want to overpromise at this point, but I think I can absolutely entertain a conversation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Can I just through the chair, just add a comment too? So I think, pre-pandemic, the food services program is such an important program to our schools in terms of nutrition and healthy eating habits. And those are conversations we started pre-pandemic and hope to really think about as we leave the pandemic, and really thinking about, what are students' preferences, working with parents, and really making sure that we're serving healthy, balanced, nutritional meals that kids like, and really build healthy habits as they progress through our school system.
Kamali?
I think Greg added a lot of what I was going to say. I think what Kim was so nicely trying to talk about was just the quality of some of the meals that the kids are getting for lunch. Like the mystery corn dogs, the mystery, French toast thingamajiggy, like things that like, where's the nutrition, where's the value? Like you can allocate, like, yes, there's a tomato, there's a cheese, and there's a starch in the pizza, but I think Kim, I don't know if you know, but there's a subcommittee that was prior to last year, COVID taking most of our efforts, that was working on food services and the lunch options. I guess, Keith, I don't know if you could speak to like where that stands. I personally don't know where that stands, but if that's where you were going with it, Kim, like to know like how can we within this 1 year, start to kind of really drive any potential improvements there. And that's, I think, where we want to find out.
Yeah, I think it's like a great opportunity, right? Because it's almost sort of like, with the sort of, it's not guaranteed revenue, but it's like, more like with the free lunch system, we might have some room to play without, compared to like another year where we have to like, if somebody doesn't like it, they're not buying it. And then we don't have that. I think it might be like a good year to sort of look at things and there are definitely groups that sort of like are pulling together best practices on this. And they do things like, when folks retire, they like bring in a chef and like the chef costs more money, but they actually save money because they can cut the waste. And I just think it might be like a good year to like talk about some of those things, like an easier year to talk about those things.
Yeah, just because it's free and people are still bringing in lunch, right? So because of the quality or the taste or the options, or the lack of like health and just
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's not easy, right? Because the kids need to eat it, right? Like that's the goal is that they need to to like, actually consume it, or it's not working. But that like finding that balance, and so
I will add there's also been conversations around, the importance food plays in culture, and also using our food services program to kind of move that work forward through food. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities. I agree with Keith. Some of this hopefully we'll be moving out of as we enter into the fall in terms of having to prepackage everything. But I think there's a lot of food for thought and conversations to be had moving forward.
And also if we want to add to like just looking at it through a different lens, like sort of like nutrition and the food that kids are eating during the day, and like how that impacts their like executive function skills and like, behavior and that kind of thing might, add to the discussion. Thanks, Keith, though.
Kamala, you still have your hand up?
No.
Okay. Other comments, questions? All right, thank you. We have the budget calendar next, Greg?
I think we just need to vote. Maybe I missed this. Did we vote the monthly general fund expenditure report?
We did.
Okay. Then I'm not paying attention.
People tend not to pay attention to me, so don't feel like you're a small part of that.
So the FY22 budget calendar is in your packet. The next milestone is May 22nd, which is the Southborough annual town meeting. So that's the next important date, and I hope all goes well at the town meeting. And that concludes the superintendent's report to the committee.
So next on, thank you very much for that. So next isn't educational policy. We have none at this time. That's next on the agenda. Policy development and or distribution. In your packets are 4 policies that are being distributed. The election of officers, B240, school committee meetings, B290, parliamentary procedures, B300, and subcommittees, B320. So we are moving to the personnel report.
So in your packet is the personnel report, and we have 2 retirements, the cafeteria manager at Mary School, and then the head custodian at Woodward School. And we will be inviting our retirees to our June school committee meeting to acknowledge their years of service and hard work. So there will be an opportunity for us to give them the send-off that they deserve.
And can I just add to that too? Wait a second. That how appreciative I am for anyone that, you know, concluded this whole school year, right? And then chose to retire instead of prior to that. I mean, that's commendable. So yeah, I'll share that with them in June when they join. But I mean, what a way to finish, what a memory they've taken with them. So
I agree, Kamali. I don't think they'll
Really?
forget the last year.
All right, I just want to point out that the next item on the printed agenda is communications. So we consider communications so important, we actually have it twice tonight. But I think we've discussed it. We do have action on 2 minutes. We've got in your packet action on the open meeting minutes of April 14th, 2021. Does anyone have any comments on that? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the open meeting minutes of the Southborough School Committee of April 14th, 2021.
So moved.
Moved by Katura. Is there a second?
Second, Kamali.
Seconded by Kamali. Kim, I will point out that even though you did not attend that meeting, every member is allowed to vote to approve minutes, whether they were at the meeting or not. So I'll take a roll call vote. Katura,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Kamali,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that's approved. Let's see, we also have, well, I believe it was a separate document, the executive session minutes of April 14th. Now, are we going to, what are we doing with these? Are we going to release them? Are we going to approve? We're going to go ahead and approve them for release?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes for the Southborough School Committee of April 14th, 2021 to be released. And I'll entertain a so moved.
So moved.
Moved by Kamali. Is there a second?
I'll second, Jen.
Seconded by Jen. Roll call vote. Katura,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Kamali,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
I vote yes, so that's unanimous. Bills and payrolls, agenda items for next month. Well, the 2 things we have, you know, at least listed are the update on the move to full-time in-person learning. We'll have a town meeting recap. I think for the most part, we'll have a similar slate of agenda items. Does anybody specifically have anything they'd like to put on next month's meeting? And you still have the opportunity to, and I see Jen with your hand up, you still have the opportunity to communicate to me, not too late in the, you know, not too late, but if you think of something in the next couple of weeks, you can certainly identify that. Jennifer?
I was actually wanted to ask a question to see whether or not to add this to the agenda. Are we going to discuss the extended day RFP or get a presentation from the, is that something that school committee votes on?
Typically, it is not something the school committee would vote on.
Okay.
But we can provide an update.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Thank you.
Katura?
I just was wondering this, because it comes before our next regular meeting, I know we generally go into session during town meeting. Are we meeting beforehand? Will there be a posted meeting for, I think it starts at 10 a.m. Are we meeting before that, or just wasn't sure what the plan was?
Yes, so Cheryl will send out an agenda. We will have a pre-meeting just to answer any questions and do any planning prior to the town meeting. So I will have Cheryl send out that agenda.
For that morning?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Probably 9:30, are you thinking?
Yeah, I think 9:30 would be good.
Okay, thanks.
Roger, I have some agenda items. I think just a coalition presentation.
We had mentioned that, yes.
And then
That's
start
important.
time update. And also the policy subcommittee met on Monday, I believe. It feels like last week, but Monday.
Correct.
To discuss some potential work in the joint policy subcommittee. So maybe an overview of what that might look like moving forward, so the committee members have an idea of the plan.
I think that's a good idea.
And also, can I just jump into identify who's going to be on the policy subcommittee? Because Jessica was on that, so.
And subcommittee appointments. So we're coming up with a great list here.
I also, I have something else too, which I meant to ask about before, and we don't have to go into it substantively, but I was wondering programmatically what will be happening in the district over the summer. Is I think there were some funds allocated towards summer learning. I didn't know if that, at the state level, I didn't know if that applied to our district or what's happening there. So be nice to just hear whether or not that's happening.
Okay.
And I think with Cheryl's help, I'll try to get a subcommittee list out to folks. So at least we can get at that, at least certainly some of the subcommittees sooner than later. All right, anything else before we go to audience sharing? All right, thank you. I'm going to look over at the attendees. I see Rhoda there with Sam and David. I don't see any hands up. So I guess we'll move to adjourn. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Roger, before we adjourn, I'll just comment on Rhoda. So Rhoda asked to move to as an attendee. She's multitasking this evening. So she asked that once her presentation was done, she could be moved to an attendee. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
She actually increased the attendance by 50%, with that move. So that's good.
Before we adjourn, I should have asked this when Gary was still on the line, but Greg, you could, and Stephanie, maybe you could speak to this. I'm wondering with the students returning to school, and I'm thinking about our older students, maybe like 8th grade, and then of course, and the high schoolers. Is there a way that as a district we can, ask and then inform them that if they are feeling challenged or experiencing any emotional or just what weight that they need to discuss with someone or that they would like to work through, that here's a list of who you can contact or here's how we can support you with that. I don't, in the past, like Southborough Youth and Family Services sometimes have like speaking engagements and services that they can provide, but just to let it be known that we can help, and these are the potential available, anonymous, all of these things that we can do to support you in this time.
Yeah, so when Gary and his team was reopening, as well as, Principal Bevan at the high school. Part of the work really centered around making sure students were reconnected. They had adults who they could go to share, successes or challenges. We also have an outstanding guidance department that has done a tremendous work in the past couple of weeks. I mean, they do great work all year long, but it's been a real concerted effort to make sure that they have folks who they can go to and report to. And we also have the Say Something app that we continue to advertise to our students, that if there's ever anything they need, it's a 24 hour a day, 7-day a week app that they can report, and those go directly to a team in the district to support. So we are trying to get the word out. And Keith, I'm not sure if there's anything you can share from your perspective as a former middle school principal, some of the things that are in place.
No, absolutely. I think that has been absolutely the focus as we've returned. I've heard a lot from Gary and the team at Trotter, as well as at Algonquin, of the amount of support and wraparound that they're doing, really reconnecting with the kids, making sure those relationships are there. And typically this time of year is a difficult time. When we get into the spring and anticipation of summer is usually not an easy time, especially coming back from April break. So, it wasn't very unusual. They did have students that did have some needs and wanted to wrap around them. I know Mary Ellen and the teams and the crisis teams have also done a lot of meeting as well and been involved in that process. But Mary Ellen, do you want to add to what I just mentioned?
Sure, I think it's good for everybody to know the supports that are available outside of the school, that the school collaborates with Southborough Youth and Family Services, like you mentioned, Kamali, but we also have Family Success Partnership, which takes it one level more when we, a little bit further than Southborough Youth and Family Services, they do more wraparound services for the family. So we do have a lot of supports in the school, and collaborators outside of the school to support our families. So I think maybe even just a night to let people know what's available through the schools and in the community, if there are needs, because we have 5 weeks left, but there's still going to be those times during the summer where there might be needs. So I know Southborough Youth and Family Services is Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, and they're doing a lot right now, social media wise, but to know that those supports are there throughout the year too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, that's great to hear about that Say Something app. I don't have constituents at that age group yet, but I love to hear. I'm glad that exists. I just really is something weighing very heavily on me because just where I am, I have. Families with children who live in Southborough, but they are in activities with children in towns that border us. And as part of that, and they're all online. And as part of that, they're not only dealing with the local in their classroom issues, they're dealing with all of the issues in the neighboring towns as well. So I just want to make sure that as often, well, I should say, if it hasn't been a recent communication like that, someone considers doing that, like, hey, just a reminder, feel free to reach out to us here, because it's not like we're thinking locally, but local just doesn't mean Southborough, Northborough. It's like our whole Metro West community, and most of you know what I'm talking about. So. All right, I just wanted to bring that up, and I'm glad to hear that we have these services, and the elementary and the high schools are both delivering that.
So Kamali, I'll just share that I just received a tip from Say Something. So I actually have to jump off and take a call.
Okay.
So I'm gonna mute, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Other comments? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second that, Kamali.
Not discussable. Roll call vote. Kamali?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Katura?
Yes.
I vote yes, that's unanimous. So thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 8:55 PM.
All right, thank you.